Hey, welcome to Wedding Film 101. My name is Bobby, and whether you are brand new to wedding filmmaking, in your first couple years, or maybe you're a photographer looking to make the transition into video, you're gonna need to understand camera aperture. So let's dive into the basics and how it affects your weddings. So aperture, also known as iris or f-stop, is one of the three settings that exist in the exposure triangle, along with ISO and shutter speed, all of which we'll have videos on. It controls the amount of light that is allowed to hit your camera sensor by opening and closing the blades in your lens. And aperture is unique in that it's dictated by your lens, not your camera. And while it's often controlled in the camera on most modern camera bodies, you still may find some lenses where aperture is controlled on the lens itself. Lenses will give you a range of apertures and often list the fastest aperture, which you'll find next to that f. For example, a 50mm f1.2. This is a fast lens that allows a lot of light into your sensor at its most open setting. But of course, you can adjust the aperture to let less light in, usually referred to as stopping down. Most lenses will stop down further than you would use in any normal scenario, especially at a wedding, to f22 or even further. You may also see some lenses list a range of f-stops, such as the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to 2.8, which is what I'm filming on. This will occur on some zoom lenses, meaning that 35mm, the fastest aperture is 2.0, while at 150mm, and at some point in between, that switches to 2.8. A small jump like this isn't usually a big deal, but be wary of lenses that have a large aperture range based on the zoom setting, as these can change your exposure quite a bit while zooming in and out, and that can slow you down on a wedding day. Not only does a wide open aperture such as f1.2, 1.8, 2.0, or 2.8 allow more light to be let in, but it also affects your focal plane or depth of field. The lower your aperture number, such as 1.2 or 2.0, the less will be in focus. For example, let's say you are filming someone's face on a 50 or an 85mm lens and focusing for their eyes. If your aperture is wide open at 1.2, 1.8, 2.0 or something like that, you may notice that their eyes are in focus while their ears or the tip of their nose is slightly out of focus. If you were to stop down, however, to something like f5.6 and adjust your other exposure settings accordingly, you might notice that more is now in focus. Additionally, having a fast aperture will also introduce bokeh, or that visually appealing blurred background and light blooms. Alright, now that you have a basic understanding of the way that aperture works, let's take a look at its purpose in a wedding film. There is a time and a place for many apertures in a wedding day, but generally, as wedding filmmakers, we are looking for fast aperture lenses. Even with the increased low light performance of modern camera bodies, fast apertures allow us to shoot in less than ideal environments and blur out less than perfect backgrounds and create that shallow depth of field look that works so well for lots of shots in a wedding film. But you always need to be aware of the shot that you're after and the variables that you're working within. There are times where I want more in focus, like a group shot or establishing venue shot. Times when there's lots of movement and having a short focal plane would make nailing my focus a lot more difficult. Or times where considering all available options to decrease my exposure, stopping down my aperture might make the most sense. You can find examples of plenty of lenses that we recommend for Sony, Canon, Fuji, and more at the kit linked in the description. If you have any questions about aperture, please let us know down below in the comments, and we'll see you in the next Wedding Film 101 video.